play tonight.
Got it.
She's
Here it goes.
Barbie.
Here it goes. Here it goes, guys.
Okay. So I think we are live, and assuming that
Not yet.
we're recording, though. I know we're recording. So everyone got a little, yes, okay to record. So you have to do that.
Yeah.
So, and you give me the heads up, Greg, once we are live streaming. It does say we're now live streaming. So it looks like
Go
we're
ahead.
live. Yes, yay. Okay. All right. So good afternoon, everyone. This is Marie Presti. I am your RRC Residential Real Estate Council for the New England Region President, and I welcome all of you here today. We have a good group who's on today. I can already see a bunch of people, yet we know that a lot of you do watch this after the fact, so I know that that's okay. You're all really busy, and you're going to have to watch after if you're in the middle of working, which is in the middle of our day. But we try to keep this mastermind meeting every month to 30 minutes. And what I'm going to do is I feel like I want to share my screen, and I hope that you guys can see all that. So let me know if you see my screen. Just give me a thumbs up, Greg. Yep, great. Okay. So first, I just want to quickly introduce anyone who's on this is our leadership team here, because they volunteer a lot of their time and effort into helping us this year. So I want to give them kudos. So I see we have, of course, Greg Hanner, who is our membership chair. Greg Wave. Yep, he is also our techie guy today and doing all of our live streaming and YouTube recording. So thank you for that. Welcome. We have Christina Silver, who is our Massachusetts and New Hampshire networking director. So welcome, Christina. I have Michelle Hagstrom, I see her. You could do a little wave, Michelle. She is our president-elect. Yay. I see Caitlin DeCillo, who is our Massachusetts networking director, which is great. Welcome, Joseph McCarthy, who is our Rhode Island network director. Joseph, give a little waves because people are going to watch this later. There we go. And then Rachel Foy, who I don't see her on camera, but I see her pretty picture. And Rachel is our education chair, and I see her on as well. Of course, we have Kirk Thompson, who is our past president of MAR, and Richard, who you're going to hear, Richard Waystack, who is a past MAR, past MAR and past RRC New England Region president on as well. So welcome, welcome. And then we even have a few guests with us, as well as our New England regions. And thank you and welcome. Okay, want to thank our strategic partners because this is something that we started this year. So you've got the list there. I'm not going to go through all the details because I did that last month. If you want to know some of the details, you can watch that YouTube. But thank you to our platinum, gold, and silver sponsors for sponsoring us this year, because they are super helpful in allowing a lot of our members to get to go to our networking events for free this year. Yes, for free. So we're really pushing, and we want to thank our strategic partners for making that happen. Speaking of networking events, we have a networking event coming up. It was supposed to be last week, but we had, as many of you know, a storm in New England, of course, in April. So we had to delay that until April 18th. So that's good for those of you who may not have been able to come last week. You've got another shot of coming, and that is Axel's Throw House, April 18th, 5 to 7. Lots of fun. Thank you to Christina Silva, who coordinated it. We've got some, we have some sponsors for that event, and we're also going to be doing some fundraising for a New Hampshire charity. So please come. It's going to be fun. It's free for any of our members to come. And if you want to bring a friend, that you absolutely can, and it's $30 for any guest to come. Okay, here's our calendar coming up. We talked about the New Hampshire networking event. May 16th and 17th, we have two great CRS classes coming up. May 16th will be in Connecticut. It's Systems Will Set You Free. It'll be at the Greater Hartford Association of Realtors. We'll be doing some more Facebook marketing and email marketing about that. And May 17th, they're coming to Salem, New Hampshire for New Hampshire class 0 to 60 home sales a year. Two awesome CRS classes. If you got those days free, please put it in your calendar now, and we'll be having the signups coming very soon. We also have our June mid-year luncheon coming up. And Rachel, I couldn't remember the date that you and I have set for that. Rachel's talked with, it's going to be at the same place, the social, which we had last year for those of you who came. And Rachel, if you can hear me later, you can always put it in the chat, the date of that. It's in mid-June. And
We're
I
still
think
deciding. I think it's, we'll talk after. We had 2 dates. We just have to confirm which one we want. We'll
which
talk
one?
after.
Okay, sorry. So that's why I didn't put a date in there now. We'll talk later, but it's in mid-June and we'll be getting that out probably within the next week or two. We also are going to be doing a Cape and Islands networking event in June as well. And there's a date coming soon for that. And in July, we're going to be doing a fundraiser for the Realtor Relief in Central Mass. We definitely already have August 6th set as our mastermind, RRC mastermind boot camp for New England and Portsmouth, New Hampshire. So I think we've got the registration coming soon for that. We're doing a lot of watch parties for CRS week in September. And we still have a Maine and Vermont class, we believe, coming up. We haven't set those yet. We're working on that. We tentatively have November 5th for our RRC New England Night Out, which is going to be at the National Association of Realtors. So save that date. And December, our holiday luncheon and installation. So those are all our upcoming events. We hope that you'll be joining us for those. Okay, with that, I want to, and I cannot, Richard said we don't have a lot of time, but I have to introduce him because he's such a wonderful guy. He is a CRS, of course, he's been a long time CRS. He was our national CRS president, not just past CRS president in Massachusetts. He is a team leader in the Cape Cod group of William Ravis. And he has led us through the COVID year for CRS National. And he's got a wealth of information. And he actually was just on a panel for Star Power and has done a lot. He's such a leader in our realtor community that we are so honored and actually very grateful that he was willing to come and talk with all of us here. And with that, I want to have him lead our discussion today about the NAR settlement and what it means to RC members and consumers as a whole. So I'm going to stop my share there and I'm back to here. And if those of you who want to pin Richard, you can pin him if you know how to do that. And maybe I'll
They
even
may
pin
want to
you,
do
Brian.
other things. They may want to throw punches at me by the time we're done. So forget the pinning.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I'm going to pin you right now so everyone can see you. And take it away. Go ahead, Richard.
Marie, thank you. I want to thank you and your wonderful RRC team. It's an honor to be a CRS, and I'm a proud CRS. You know, it's my 30-year anniversary since taking my first, back then, CRS course, and it's really charted my career. And you know, being a CRS member, there are 3 things that I find the most important part of being a CRS is to educate, is to collaborate, which we're doing today, and to validate best practices. And we're going to open this up so we can talk together a little bit later. You know, I've learned from some of the best practitioners in the industry. You know, and Marie said I was on a panel last week with Star Power. Again, some of these best practitioners. But I can learn from them. We can all learn from each other. You know, I've learned so much. I was honored to serve with Kurt Thompson as part of a leadership team. And I learned so much from my friend Kurt. We collaborate together, working together as we're doing today. And then truly validate, are we doing the right thing? And we know that in this industry, there's only one constant. And that constant is change. And, you know, the NAR DOJ settlement, you know, it's just a little more change. But I don't know if I see anyone on the screen who's been around as long as I have in the business, but guys, this is a relic. This was called an MLS book. This is how we did business before cell phones, before computers. And over the years, my mantra in CRS has been very simple. Our business is about just 3 things and 3 things only. It's about relationships, it's about communication, and it's about trust. And as we go through this next sea of changes with NAR, we're going to go back and we're going to rely on those 3 caveats of being in the business. So let's get into a summary. All of you have seen somewhere, somehow, what's going on with NAR and the settlement. And raise your hands if you would. How many have actually read the 108-page settlement? Has anybody? No. Well, if anyone wants to see, I have a couple of times. And if anyone would like to read the entire thing, please email me or text me, and I'll see that you get the 108-page settlement letter. Because there's a lot in there. But I want to give a huge shout out to NAR, because they're making my life much easier. Facts.realtor. Facts.realtor is where you can get so much information. You can get a summary, you can get a brief summary, you can get a very extensive summary of some of the changes that have happened. But I want to establish a couple of caveats that we're speaking this morning. Number one, I'm not an attorney. Number two, we all know that broker commissions are not set by law, that all commissions are fully negotiable, and that we will not talk numbers today as a group of realtors getting together. So let's do a quick review, and I do want to have some input from folks, so please plan on being involved, because I've got some questions of you folks that I'd like answered as well. Brief review. We know the settlement was reached, and it was reached based basically on NAR's ability to pay and to do the best that they could for as many of our members as possible. The settlement is $418 million. It's not being paid out at once. There are 2 payments in the first year. This payment is going to occur over 4 years. Number 2, one of the most important changes. Buyer representation agreements are required. Now, my good friend Greg, he's been dealing with for years in Connecticut. They've had mandatory buyer agent representation requirements. Massachusetts, we have not. And I want to talk a little bit later about some of the sort of practices that have occurred here on Cape Cod. It's a blow to a lot of folks that we're dealing with in our market, because many have had the opportunity to use buyer agency agreements, but very, very few have. Important for MLS, compensation is no longer offered through MLS. There is no compensation offered by MLS. And here's a more important one. There's no requirement to be a member of an association or MLS to get paid. And a lot of the comments I've heard through a lot of the masterminds in the last few weeks is people trying to do workarounds. How can I use showing time to put my buyer agency compensation? Can't do it. Cannot use MLS data feeds to create alternative offers of compensation. So, number 1, the settlement. 2 payments this year. And I think it's important that everyone to talk about, because we've heard so many folks, if you've been anywhere near social media, I'm leaving NAR, this is no, I don't need to belong. And if you're a member of NAR, you're covered under this settlement. If you're gonna leave NAR, this is the absolute worst time to leave NAR. Now is time to be a part of who we are. And lawsuits are based on the ability of people to pay. And that this settlement over 4 years is what NAR can work. But more importantly, Kevin Sears and our NAR president has said there will be no doozy increase in 2005, 24 and 25 to pay for the settlement. Important to know. Biggest thing we've been talking about down here, buyer's representation agreements must be signed before you show a property. And some of the discussions I've seen, people saying, well, I want to date before I get married. I want to show people a few houses before I sign that agreement. No longer allowed. And I keep needing to tell everyone that we've got 90 days. We've got 90 days before this is going to come into effect. And although the court still has to approve the settlement, we need to be ready right now. We cannot wait till the last minute. And we've seen changes here already in my market here on Cape Cod. You know, the no compensation in MLS, for years we've talked to each other. You know, we talk about collaboration of being in touch with our other realtors. This is where we need to get back to some of the basics in the industry. You know, I kiddingly, I put up this MLS book. You know, this is 20 years ago. 136 properties were on the market in Harwich at that time. There are 23 as of today. And when they published an MLS book, it would take 2 weeks notice to get something into the book and then to get it published. So it was upwards of a month when that book came out to know if a property was available. And what we had to do as agents back then is we had to pick up the phone and call our friends. Hey, Ellis Gardner, I see you have this listing on 123 Main Street. Is that still available? Could I show it on Saturday? And Ellis is shaking his head. No, it's gone. Not in this market. It's already sold. We used to have to pick up the phone and speak to each other. Now it's all done through showing time, through showing services. You know, it's all done through our cell phones. But we need to get back to that basics. And I think it's going to be very beneficial to a lot of realtors who've not had to establish those relationships over the years. And obviously in this last market, they don't care. Hold an open house, 30 people come in, they have 10 offers, 5 over asking, and all cash. That's going to change. You know, one of the things I've heard extensively in the last few weeks, there's going to be compression within the industry. There's going to be compression, both in commissions and in the number of agents practicing. We already see that. You know, we know in our market, we check every day, 3 times a day, what's happening within the marketplace. And we know we've seen compression already in some of the fees that people are charging. There's an issue that occurs here on Cape Cod. I don't know, and this is where I love some of the feedback, Marie, and some of you from the different markets. I've been concerned when I see new listings hit the market. And a lot of agents, mostly on Cape Cod, require for compensation to have an agent be a member of the Cape Cod and Islands multiple listing service. That's going away. There were 22 new listings on Cape Cod today. 3 of them had that statement. They will not compensate an agent who is not a member of the Cape and Islands MLS. Frankly, that's a borderline ethics violation for me because we represent our clients. And we're supposed to put that property out to anyone and everyone. So people need to learn to make that change. And I'd love to know if that's happening in other markets. I don't know if it happens in Greater Boston. MLS PIN is throughout the state. But does anyone have that happen in their markets? Raise your hand if you do. I don't see anybody raising their hand.
That raising your hand if they have to be a part of the MLS in order to give offer a co-broke commission?
Correct. Your local, and again, our case in the Cape, we have our own MLS. And we subscribe to both MLS PIN and Cape and Islands. But so many of our agents will do that. They're trying to protect their commissions, which frankly is, I just don't think it's in the best interest of their clients. And I don't think it's fair to other realtors. That's going to change. And I know the agents here in Cape Cod, those who are watching this today, are going to have to make that change. And my reaction is, make the change now. Don't wait till July.
Yeah, I was going to just respond, Richard, that for MLS PIN, which is up in the Boston area, and it actually covers a lot of Massachusetts MLS PIN. There's not a rule that it has to be in the MLS to offer it, but the unilateral co-broke commission, the rule is that the listing agent does not have to offer a co-broke commission if they're not in there. So it's kind of one of those things they could get off the hook.
I absolutely understand, Marie, and that same thing here. But what's happening is in agent remarks, we're saying agents on the Cape, there is that offer of cooperation and compensation right now. And people are saying, but if you're not a member of our MLS, we will not compensate you. We will cooperate, but we will not compensate. I'm hearing, and I'm sure you guys have seen this as well. We're seeing more and more workarounds. How can we work around this? Frankly, folks, we shouldn't be trying to find workarounds. The settlement offers opportunities. One of the big things, and this was a great discussion, Tom Ferry did an exceptional program last week on the settlement and working with your sellers. He had done one already working with your buyers, and if you have a chance, tune into that. It was exceptional. We know now that if we sign a buyer's agency agreement with our buyers before we show that first house, that we have to state how we're going to get paid. and how much we're going to get paid. And this settlement states to us that if, for instance, I have decided that I'm going to contract with Marie Presti to represent her buying a home here on Cape Cod. And I agree that I will pay her, 2.5 apples to represent her. I cannot get paid anything different from that 2.5 apples. I cannot get paid any more than those 2.5. I couldn't get paid 3 apples or 3.5 apples, even if a seller were offering that. I can only get paid what I have contracted with Marie in my contract to get. There's a caveat. I can always get paid less. So we would negotiate. It has to be stated. It cannot be general. It has to be specific of what you are charging for your services. Which now brings us to the idea of how do we value our services? And if people haven't seen, NAR provides in its multiple publications that they have for us. And that facts.realtor, I've got about 5 things here that I've printed that is excellent information. But there's one thing every year that is printed, and that is the profile of home buyers and sellers. And if you haven't read it, read it for 2023, because there are actually 8 items that buyers are looking for in us as realtors. And the vast majority of buyers who bought a property used a realtor or a professional to purchase their home. It's already there, what people are looking for. And it goes down to the fact that right now, each and every one of us has to put a value on the services that we provide. And we better darn provide those services. The buyers are telling us what they want. We need to provide those services to them so that we can value ourselves appropriately. And I think through this settlement that NAR has said, we do value our members. We want this settlement. And again, this is so fluid, folks. We in our code of ethics are supposed to be aware of what's happening within our marketplace. As we subscribe, we wear our realtor pins, we subscribe to that code of ethics. We need to be aware of what's going on. I attended an event less than a month ago. 2 agents sitting in the back of the room had no idea what was happening with this. So I go back to that point of, we're going to see some compression in the industry. There are folks like that who have no idea what's happening, that frankly maybe shouldn't be selling real estate any longer. That's when that compression will occur. So, nothing again has been finalized. We need to approve all of this. What are we going to do? How are you being prepared? Are you doing scripts already with your buyers and your sellers? And I had a meeting with the seller a couple of weeks ago. We went over the settlement. We had a discussion of what it means for him and whether or not that particular seller wanted to offer compensation. I want to be ready now. I want to have the practice of the scripts and dialogues speaking with my buyers and my sellers of what we have to do rather than waiting to July, because folks who are part of the Residential Real Estate Council, the CRS designees, they're getting prepared. Industry experts are getting prepared. They're putting those scripts and dialogues together. And Marie, I'm looking at my clock and I've got 12:24. I would love if we could open up folks so that I have some questions. I'd like to get some feedback, because this is an opportunity for me to learn from some of you as well. So can you open up their mics?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone can unmute themselves. That would be
Great, super.
great.
Yep.
And I just unpin you so that you can see everybody. I don't know if you can see everybody, Richard, now.
I
and
can see all
everybody
those
can see
lovely
you. So
faces.
now,
So
instead
many
of
of my
it
good
being on
friends there.
speaker view, it's on gallery view.
Okay.
So, I mean, I can just jump in terms of since the beginning of the year. And for the record, I'm one of those where I didn't realize that people didn't use buyer agency agreements, because when I was first in the business, the teaching that I learned was to use one. So I just thought everybody did that. So I think I only learned maybe 3 or 4 years ago that not everybody did it, used one in Massachusetts. But what I have been doing is explaining the changes that are going to happen. So for example, I just had a buyer, I signed up and we signed everything up last week. And as I usually do, I go over all the paperwork. And instead of saying, there's a good chance that this is going to get paid for through the seller or through the listing agent's cooperation, you have to change your positioning to say, it's a negotiable thing, everything's negotiable. And so we'll try to do that. But if not, here's the different options that could happen, and explain that maybe it could be financed. Maybe it could be put as a closing cost fee. So trying to explain to buyers what their requirements are is what I've been doing lately. And on the listing side, I have been testing out a bunch of different scripts where rather than saying, this is what I charge, and this is, I charge this, I keep this portion, I give this to a buyer agent. Now I say, this is what I charge, and you can decide whether what you want to offer for the buyer agent cooperating compensation. And I've been giving a bunch of different choices to them and letting them decide.
I think it's so important. And in that buyer's agency agreement, there's a statement that has to be put in there that all commissions are negotiable and the commissions are not set by law. It's a requirement in each buyer's agency. Has anyone started changing their forms yet? Anyone?
Well, actually, I'll jump in, Richard, on that. Being one of the Connecticut being one of the 13 states out of the country that has had buyer's agency, the first thing I want to have everybody understand is we've had it for 20 plus years. So it's not the end of the world. And in
Fred,
fact,
can I just interject? Mandatory, correct?
mandatory. Oh yeah, we have not. I can't show your listing without a written buyer's rep agreement. So to your point that we need to spend the next 90 days, there's a legislative process that goes on. It's got to get approved. You're going to have state, then you're going to have local associations all revise the forms. Do we as agents need to revise the forms right now? No. I mean, here in Connecticut, we have bar association, approved forms that are bilateral agreements. We don't do binders here. We go right to contract. And to your point and Marie's point, where you're having these discussions, I think it's important. I have a tendency to get into the weeds, and I found I had a recorded conversation many times when I'm doing a buyer consultation initial, and then I go into a second conversation that's going to be a strategy call. It was recorded. I watched when I got to that point, I was way too long-winded because I was wanting to make sure that I educated the consumer. And there's great scripts in chat that we just put in there, and Marie corrected me on my part one. There's a new link in there for part one. Tom Ferry talked, there was an hour discussion about buyers. And then there was another one that just came out that was for the selling side. I haven't even watched that one yet in full. So it's good to practice because we do need to get our talking points, get it into our own voice, right? And make sure that it resonates to the buyers or the sellers that we're talking to.
We have the old adage, disruption creates opportunity. And I think the disruption right now is going to offer a lot of opportunity. Those scripts, by the way, Greg, take a look at that last Ferry one from Friday. It was exceptional.
Yeah.
And some great opportunities. They talked about listing opportunities as a result of this and the scripts to use with that. Anyone else using either some new scripts or forms, or what are their experiences dealing with people?
Well, Richard, I just wanted to highlight something you said that I thought was so incredibly important and really, really dead on. It's about relationships. And 15, 20 years ago, yes, we picked up the phone, called the co-broke agent and said, hey, we're looking to show what the circumstances. I do agree with you. I think that will be one of the wonderful things that does come out of the changes we're going through right now. Those of us that are professional agents, those are us that are CRS designees. Most of us are already using written buyer agency agreements. Most of us are already engaging in best practices. But many of the new agents never learn that relationship piece, and it's on us to help train them and help them to survive the changes. And quite frankly, I'm happy that we're going back to more of a relationship based approach to our business.
I agree. Couldn't agree with you anymore, Kurt.
I'll also chime in that I am Buffini and Company mentee.
The
And,
Feniac is what you're called.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. And so, and Brian was on last week as well. And so I'm frantically looking for the link for his talk as well, because he, just like Tom Ferry, had a host session that was on Facebook Live. And it's on there somewhere. I just got to go find it. But if you go to Brian Buffini on Facebook or Buffini and Company, you'll probably find it if I don't find it before the end of this session. And he gave a lot of really good. And again, the Buffini mentality is about working by referral and working with, having relationships with your past clients to help them refer you in the future. And that's really what it's about, is just like you said, Richard, is focus on your relationships and continue to communicate with them, both current and past clients, and explaining things and educating them on the marketplace. And if you continue to do that and educate a current client, at the beginning of the thing, which he's been a proponent of all along, that you can't go wrong.
Marie, we talked about that disruption equals opportunity, and NAR, give them credit, has been doing a lot. Free ABR courses. Our own CRS designee from Massachusetts here, Kimberly Allard, has been everywhere talking about this, and she does a phenomenal job. If you have the opportunity, for those who are, watching this at a later time, take advantage. Take an hour or so a day. Learn what's happening with this. Start coming up and listening to those scripts and dialogues. What's your discussion going to be with your sellers? How are you going to approach that subject of offering compensation or not? And having the discussion, if they're not offering compensation, are they willing to entertain it in the transaction? These are discussions that we have to have. We need to start practicing right now so that we can cooperate with our fellow realtors. So I'm just excited. I think this is an opportunity. It's a great opportunity for education. And with the collaboration with great CRS designees, I think there's some just wonderful times ahead for all of us who stay aware of what's going on.
And
Well,
one of the things that I was thinking we could do too, as RRC members or CRS members, is to actually not just educate our past clients and our current clients, but to go out to our real estate partners, like the attorneys and the title companies and our lenders, because they're even once more removed from what we're all going through. And so if we educate them, I think that could turn into a stronger relationship with our partners, which could in turn, have us be the leaders in the industry, and they're more likely to refer us down the road. So that was one thing that I wanted to share as well. Whether you set up a one-to-one with your lenders that you work with, or even do, a Zoom like this with them to explain to them what's going on and how you're changing and what you're doing, or how you're different, I think could go a long way.
And don't forget, I know NAR is already having discussions with FHA. A lot of questions come up about how that's going to be dealt with. And FHA actually has released a statement relative to what they can do. And we're having discussions. A letter was sent out to VA to have that same discussion. So I give credit to our president, Kevin Sears, and NAR for the work that they are doing on our behalf. And again, it's just another change, which is the only constant we have in our industry. Maria, doing a great job. Thank you for making people aware of what's going on.
Thank you so much, Richard. And we really appreciate it. We're trying to stick to our 30 minutes, but I think we did. You did awesome. I'm sure we all have a few takeaways from that. And Richard has his contact info. Maybe I should pull up the screen again just to have, well, I can't find it now, but here we go. If you guys can see that. So it's got his contact information on there. And certainly if you have some more questions or comments for Richard, I'm sure he'd be happy to take a text, call, or email, right, Richard? I'm sure you'd be willing to do that. So.
Oh, absolutely. This is the more that we can talk together, the better we're going to be able to implement the scripts and dialogues necessary to be successful.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us and taking your time. And all of you for joining us, and we'll see you next month. Put this date every Monday. We're doing a Mastermind Monday, and it is the second Monday of the month, so from 12 to 12:30. So put that in your calendar as a recurring appointment, and we hope to see you next month.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Richard.
And we'll drop the links in the posts in both the group, the public page, and YouTube later this week. Everything that was in chat for you folks watching the replay, we'll drop that in for you. Bye-bye.
That's great. Awesome.